legislation that the governor talked about. And if you know, I'm sure we've gotten a lot of emails on this. I can tell you that when I was door knocking this last fall for my reelection, I constantly heard from parents pleading to get their kids back in school. And it didn't matter what school district I was in. I think this is a very good bill. What this bill will do is, first of all, it would go into and be effective after the second Monday, assuming that it passes the House and the governor signs the bill, ending on June 30th of 2021. A parent or guardian would have at least 5 days to decide if they want to do online, which we are not eliminating in this bill. I think that's very important that people know that, because there is certain circumstances where health reasons, et cetera, where a parent would opt to do the online learning as well. This is something that, so many times, and this is what I heard, and so many of you probably heard, it's really been hard, not only on the students, because we've gotten some early indications that student performance is going down. We all recognize that some students don't do as well with online learning, and there's a whole host of many other benefits that I'll go through with my closing comments. With that said, Madam Chair, that'll end my opening comments.
Thank you, Senator Zahn. Are there other senators seeking the floor to speak on Senate Study Bill 1064? Senator Trongariat, you are in order.
Thank you, Senator. I'm the mom of an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old in the public schools, and this year has challenged my family beyond anything we ever anticipated, and I know schools are really struggling to make things work. And I saw the districts in my community really work hard on creating plans according to the choices laid out by our governor. They've engaged that in good faith with lots of hard work, bringing in parents and students, educators, their staff, and public experts for public health. And the choices they made were very specific to their local realities. And in every case, the local reality they had to deal with was staffing and space. And they did the best they could with insufficient resources. So after a decade of inadequate funding for schools, my public school district class sizes are already too large for really good education, let alone educating during a public health disaster. My family made a choice to keep our kids home and online this year, hoping that if they weren't in the classroom, it would make things safer for the kids and adults that had to be in the building. Because our schools got no additional support from the state, they could not hire additional teachers to make the options truly work. My third grader's online class has more than 30 students in it this year, and it's not great. I don't blame the teacher or online education. I blame the ridiculous expectations in impossible circumstances. Meanwhile, in the building, the class sizes are just as large, if not larger than they were before the pandemic, making it very difficult to implement safety practices. And when the entire school district had to go online, it was because too many staff were sick or exposed, and the school building could not function without them. If our governor wants schools to be guaranteed 100% in-person option, we need to put forth some effort and some resources to make it happen. Right now, millions of dollars of our tax funds are in a surplus account and a rainy day fund, just sitting there. For all the parents who depend on public schools, for our economy, let's put those taxpayer dollars to work to make our classrooms safer for students, teachers, and staff. Let's actually talk to the people in those classrooms to find out what they need in their unique situations to make in-person education possible and safe. More than anything, we need to vote on a bill that offers solutions with real resources, not impossible demands. Let's put our money where we say our heart is and get our kids back in school in the safest way possible. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Senator Trongariat. Senator Giddens, you are in order.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to make a couple of points about this bill. I rise in opposition to this bill The first point is about local control. I served on our Cedar Falls School Board before being elected to the Senate, and so we, in situations where we needed to make decisions in the best interests of our school district, I know firsthand that we did the best job we could using local data from local experts in every type of situation to do our best in good faith to make decisions in the best interests of our students and our staff and our community, frankly. So I see no reason that we can't continue to do that right now. And I believe wholeheartedly that our school districts, school boards and superintendents have been doing that since the beginning of this pandemic. And I know that they would continue to do their absolute best using local data to make decisions that are in the best interests of the schools. And so, that's the first point I'd like to make is that I trust our school boards, our superintendents using county health department data from those directors and staff of our health departments and local boards of health that are, frankly, the experts on the ground in our communities that can give us the tools that we need to make decisions in our districts. The second point has to do with the logistics of trying to implement another type of learning program if one isn't in place right now. So as Senator Zahn said, we're offering, most of our districts are offering that online option, fully online option. Some of them, though, currently do a hybrid model. Others have a fully in-person model. The districts that are doing the hybrid model are in place. The river's flowing steadily right now. They're doing the best they can to implement that. Although this bill doesn't prohibit them from implementing a hybrid model in the future, it will force them to add a 100% in-person option. And I can tell you, I was also a school teacher in the Cedar Falls School District, and the thought of adding a third type of planning and programming to a lineup of educational experiences for our students is really just logistically impossible for our teachers and staff. So what will happen is effectively those districts that have hybrid options will have to do away with those options in order to implement a fully 100% in-person model. So for those reasons, I'm opposed to this bill. Look forward to hearing the rest of the debate, but I urge my colleagues to vote against this bill as well. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Seeing no further discussion, Senator Zahn, you're in order for, I'm so sorry, Senator Celsi, you're in order.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I represent two of the largest districts in Iowa, Des Moines and West Des Moines. The positivity rates were so high in our area, in Polk County, for a couple of months that they went all online, which was because of social distancing requirements. I've had one of the very first teachers to die of COVID lived in West Des Moines. I had a very dear constituent and friend who was a bus driver who was felled by COVID. So, those are the faces I see when we're debating this bill. I see people who suffered. So that's very real to a lot of teachers. Instead of coming back to the Senate and introducing bills that help our teachers who are overworked and overwhelmed, we're kicking them in the teeth and saying, go back to work, no matter what the safety risk is to you. That brings up a really important point, vaccinations. I appreciate that the governor moved teachers up in the vaccination line somewhat. However, the reality is that teachers will still have to wait in line behind 600,000, some 65-plus adults to get their vaccinations, plus they need 2 of them, 3 weeks apart, and then it takes about 6 weeks to be completely, takes that long for the vaccinations to take effect, and even then, they're still not 100%. So I just want to make the point that this bill just comes at a really awkward and bad time. We should be waiting until our educators can be safe, till they go back into the classroom, get their vaccinations, and do everything we can to make sure that more teachers don't die. So that's my objection to the bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Scelsi. Senator Cornbach, you're in order.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. First, let's make it very clear. We all, I think, are in favor of getting kids back into the classroom where they can be most effectively educated. We're in favor of doing that when it is safe to do so. Loss of learning is bad. Loss of life is worse. So what do we have here? Well, Senator Zahn refers to this as a return to learn. Senator, I'm sorry, that may in fact be accurate, but I don't think it's advantageous for you to characterize it this way. The term return to learn was used to describe the plans that school districts were supposed to come up with last summer to provide ways to continue education on into the fall. And most, if not all, districts met their July 1 deadline. They put a lot of hard work into it, a lot of careful thought, a lot of analysis of their local situations, only to have the governor come along 2.5 weeks later and impose a state-level mandate that upset the apple cart and set them all back to square one. So to call this return to learn, I think it's actually accurate because that's kind of what we're doing with this, but I don't think it's advantageous to your cause to characterize it that way. We have a higher infection rate in this state. It's come down a little bit from the peak in November, but it's still higher than anything we saw up through October. We don't have a vaccine approved for anyone under the age of 16, so our kids, no vaccines. We have the UK strain coming at us, in fact, probably already here, definitely in neighboring states, that is 70% more contagious and may, if you believe Boris Johnson's statement over the weekend, may be, in fact, deadlier. President Biden agrees with us that we want to get our kids back into schools, and he has promulgated a 100-day plan for getting them back to get our schools open again. But unlike this bill, President Biden's proposal actually has some money attached to pay for the extra costs of PPE, to pay for the extra costs of ventilation modification, to pay for vaccination. What we have here in front of us is an unfunded mandate. The schools are mandated to change their plans, take on additional efforts at greater risk to their personnel. We shouldn't be doing that. This is not the time for the heavy hand of state. We should wait until it is safe to bring the children back. And if our local districts decide that it is, based on their own community, then yes, they should be allowed to exercise the local control to do that. But for districts where it isn't safe yet, local control would indicate that they delay. So I'm going to be opposed to this bill.
Seeing no further discussion, Senator Zahn, you are now in order for closing comments.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would have to respectfully disagree with some of the comments that were said with some of the scare tactics, and I'm just going to give you facts because that's what I deal with. One thing we do know, based on a news report, that 37% of Iowa City schools had a 1 or more failing grade. That's double the number since COVID started. One thing that we know is that the waiver process is still in place in this bill. Parents are still going to have the opportunity to decide if they want to send their kids to school for in-school learning or if they want to do online. The waiver process, in case there's a spike in COVID cases, is still in place. The Center for Disease Control study states schools do not transmit more rapidly than large populations, and transmission rates were significantly lower among elementary students. There's been several studies that have been put out, not only American studies, but some foreign countries, that reinforce what I just said. The CDC, who's the experts, recommends that K through 12, as long as all mitigation measures are put in, they think that the kids are best to be in the schools. Not to mention mental health benefits to getting kids in schools. Not to mention the mandatory reporters in our schools to kind of check on our kids. There's so many benefits to this. We learned a lot during the COVID outbreak, a lot more than we did when this started last March, that we as a legislative body started dealing with this. We've learned a lot, and there's a lot of studies that are out there, and all you have to do is go to the CDC and look what they're saying in regards to our schools. Unfortunately, the reason why we're doing this bill is there's a few school districts that refuse to give that option to their kids. 16, to be exact, in the state of Iowa. You know, when I was door knocking, I had a lot of people talk about this. Had a lot of parents, and I know we all have, when we were door knocking, if you did this fall, they're frustrated. They've been forced to work at home. There's many of our parents that we represent are dual income. It's disruptive. There's no doubt, we don't know the data, that there's some kids that just can't do very good in regards to learning online. Another question that I got asked many times is, what's the schools doing with that money? I mean, a lot of schools took a little bit longer time to get the online service provided. There's no doubt that there has been some savings because we're not deploying buses for some of the school districts that didn't do that. There's no lunches being served in some of those school districts. We have the best teachers in the United States here in Iowa. The governor made it a priority, moved the teachers up in regards to the immunization. I agree that that's really important, that they have the ability to be able to be immunized. So I think this is incredible. Parents, we listen to you. And help is on the way. And I'm hopeful that everyone votes for this, because this is for, and everyone in this chamber knows that it is so important, and our number one priority is to make sure our kids are getting the best education that they can. And this is a big step forward, and I want to compliment a lot of the school districts that are out there that are offering this. This has nothing to do with you. This has to do with the school districts that are out there not offering the online or the in-person instruction. So that, Madam President, I'd just like to move the bill.
Senator Zahn has moved passage of Senate Study Bill 1064. Do you wish a record roll call vote has been requested? Gina, could you call the roll?
Senator Sinclair.
Aye. The vote is 10 ayes, 5 nays. The bill passes and will be placed on the calendar under Rule 40.